Hey, 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 Big Dave the Middle Aged Gamer, and to quote the great Monty Python, and now for something completely different. Today we are doing a mock draft. As of the time of recording, today's episode of Hades is loaded up, so by the time this comes out, that will have already been out. And with 1 day remaining until the NFL draft begins, I figure I'd get this out now before any stupid trades happen that completely screw everything up. D-Hop. And everybody else puts them out. It's my turn to show just how stupid I am and how badly I can predict how the NFL draft is going to go along. Now, I'm going to go by I'm going to go break down every team that goes. If a pick is changed, I'm going to tell you why, in case you're a little out of the loop on it. That's all right. For those followers of my channel, I can't assume that you're sports fans, and if you are, hey, great, and if not, well, enjoy the ride, and here we go. We're going to get started here. Let it do its thing. And the Carolina Panthers are on the clock at number 1. The Panthers got their pick, not by being the worst team in the league. That was the Chicago Bears, but they traded with the Bears from number 9 all the way to number up, and basically giving up the farm. Multiple first-round picks, their best player on their team and wide receiver DJ Moore, and a couple other picks as well, just so they could move up and get who they want. And generally with a move up like that, that means quarterback. Now, I suppose it's possible they could go Will Anderson here, but I really, really doubt it. And according to the suggestions here, it's either going to be Bryce Young or C.J. Stroud. I don't think it's going to be C.J. Stroud. There have been a lot of red flags that have come up in the past few weeks. There was one test, I forget exactly what it's called, but it shows your ability to think outside the box. And Bryce Young scored a 98 on it, and C.J. Stroud scored an 18. 18. Well, this test doesn't necessarily mean if you do well that you're going to be a good player. It has shown in the past that if you do really poorly at it, you're probably going to be a bust. In the case of Bryce Young, he's got all the tools to be a top-notch quarterback. Good arm, decision-making, mobility. The only thing he really doesn't have is the height and weight. He's small, so, there are those durability issues. It's kind of old school, where every quarterback had to be 6'3", 6'4", 220, 230, built like a Greek god. Case in point, check out my Hades series. But we've seen lately, smaller quarterbacks doing a pretty good job. Russell Wilson until last year. Kyler Murray until last year. Drew Brees made a Hall of Fame career out of it. Doug Flutie, everybody knows, had some insane moments. So I think the pick here is going to be Bryce Young. And, again, if you're selling the farm to get your quarterback, you're going to want to get, what turns out to be the best one in the entire class. All right, pick 2, the Houston Texans. They got it by virtue of just sucking royally. And their quarterback, Davis Mills, was absolutely horrible. He was a third-round pick, and they thought they may have had something the year before, but last year kind of proved that's not really the case. However, with the issues of Stroud, Anthony Richardson being a project, and other quarterback Will Levis being older and a bit of a project, but a hell of an arm, and the fact that the Texans have 2 first-round picks, it could really stand to reason that they'll just go BPA here. They got a lot of holes, not just on the offense. They did just pick up a really defensive-minded coach in former Niners defensive coordinator DeMeco Ryans, himself a former linebacker. And so with that, I think they're going to lean more towards the defense. I mean, they got themselves a surprisingly good running back last year in Dameon Pierce. Their offensive line isn't that bad, surprisingly. So we're going to go with Will Anderson here. Got to rebuild that defense, get the best defensive player in the entire draft. Some consider him a generational player. I remember one other YouTuber, shout out to C4, calling him an alien. Just out of this world. Get it? And now we're at the Arizona Cardinals at number 3, where the wheels completely fell off. They were expected to be contending for the playoffs last year. Yeah, it really did not happen. And they're going to basically start over with their quarterback, Kyler Murray, but he's hurt. So this could be a bit of a wash. So this is sort of a rebuilding year. And the way the board is set up right now, and there have been a lot of rumors that they were open for business for trading this pick, especially with a couple with all the other quarterbacks still on the board. I think there's going to be a trade here. Excuse me. There we go. That's what I get for just doing this first thing in the morning. All right, so Arizona trading back, and I think trading up is going to be the Tennessee Titans. I know this looks ridiculous, but I really think this is going to happen. So 3-11, 1-for-1 trades not allowed, duh. And they're going to end up having to give up a lot more, but for the sake of this engine, we're just going to do this. It's going to take a lot more than just next year's first. It might also require the 2025 first and a day 2 pick or two, and maybe a player. If you look at the package that Carolina gave to Chicago to move from 9 to 1, this is kind of comparable. So just for the sake of this mock draft simulator, we're just going to do that. But it's going to require a lot more. Now, the Titans, they already got a quarterback, getting kind of up there, though, in Ryan Tannehill. And he's not the quarterback he was. He showed a lot of regression last year. And if you look at how the Titans have done lately under Mike Vrabel, or they've tried to do, drafting Malik Willis last year, drafting Marcus Mariota a few years back, they want that mobile quarterback to go with Derrick Henry, or although there's been rumors of them trying to trade Derrick Henry too, so don't know. So I think they're going to go with Anthony Richardson. He's young. Doesn't have to go out there just yet because they can still throw Tannehill to the Wolves. And got a hell of an arm and athletic as hell. Most athletic quarterback to come out from what I've seen since Lamar Jackson. So that should say something right there. All right, pick 4 to the Colts. And after seeing that happen, I mean, that honestly, I don't think that really mattered because I think the Colts have their guy. They want the more traditional quarterback, and they've been linked to Will Levis for a long time. Stroud's red flags, I think, are going to continue to cause some issues here. I think they go with Levis. All right, which leads us to pick number 5, the Seattle Seahawks, the first of their 2 picks in this round. They got the first one, part of the Russell Wilson deal with the Denver Broncos, and wow, did they fleece the Broncos on that trade. And it's not to say that the Seahawks were absolutely perfect. I mean, you see they got the number 20 pick. They made it into the playoffs last year, but that was about all they did. Their defense was a bit of a wreck last year, and I think it all starts up front. Their edge rushers weren't bad. Linebackers, the secondary is okay, but the front 3 needs work. So I think you go with the other best player in the draft. His combine was bad. His pro day was even worse, and he has off-the-field issues, but this is sort of a Seattle thing. They've always kind of gone with the bad boys and whip them into shape. And I think they do it again here. Jalen Carter. He is going to be a monster on that front 3 for them. If he shows up into camp out of shape, they'll just plug him in a nose tackle. Otherwise, I expect him to be one of the 3-4 defensive ends and just wreaking havoc all over the place. All right, pick 6. Detroit Lions. There have been they got this pick by virtue of all right, who did they fleece? Oh, right, the LA Rams. I wouldn't call it a fleecing. I mean, it was the Matt Stafford trade, and it worked out for the Rams. They did win a Super Bowl. They kind of went all in, and now they paid for it. Lions, however, get a hell of a pick out of it. They almost made the playoffs last year. Surprised everybody. But they're definitely trending in the right direction. Their defense needs some work. They need an edge rusher opposite Aiden Hutchinson. They've been really linked to Tyree Wilson. They said they're absolutely in love with them. But their actions kind of tell a different story. They traded Jeff Okudah to the Falcons, which creates a gaping hole at corner, and that's where I think they're going. And now it comes down to whether it's going to be Devin Witherspoon or Christian Gonzalez. Two entirely different players, but both incredibly good. Gonzalez, height, weight, speed kind of guy, to quote C4. What's up, man? And he's like 6'3". Yeah, tested well at the combine. Great length. Devin Witherspoon's a little smaller, but he's also fast. And he's got that dog in him, that Dan Campbell dog. If you get what I mean, if you haven't watched any of the Lions, they all play with this ridiculous chip on their shoulder, which comes out from head coach Dan Campbell, former tight end with the Giants. But he's proven to get a lot out of these guys. I think it's going to be Witherspoon. He's also closer to Detroit by virtue of playing in Illinois. He knows the area, knows the weather. He's more suited for it. All right, pick 7, the Raiders. If you notice, it's kind of leaning, wants me to take a quarterback here. They did sign Jimmy Garoppolo in the offseason after getting rid of Derek Carr. Jimmy G's more of a game manager, so it leads me to believe that they're planning on shifting more towards a run and defense style, more old school. They got Justin Jacobs for that. I mean, he was an amazing running back last year. Their offensive line, from what I gather from a lot of fans, wasn't as bad as everybody would lead you to believe. But their defense was absolutely horrific, and you could see that. Their secondary was the absolute pits. I mean, safeties were all right, but their corners were absolute nightmare. Christian Gonzalez, that's an easy pick. All right, pick 8 to the Falcons. They got a lot of holes, too. They need nose tackle. I mean, they did a hell of a job of trying to fix up that defense. A lot of signings through free agency. They signed Calais Campbell to be part of that 3-4 defense. They traded for Jeff Okudah. Where did I just hear that from? They really need a nose tackle. There's none to be had here. They could use another running back. And they got Cordero Patterson, but he's slowing down. He's in his 30s. I mean, he's still good, but he's not good like he was the past couple of years. And it says they need edge, but they've developed some good youth under there. Drafting Arnold Ebiketie last year. They brought back Lorenzo Carter, who did all right. As a Giants fan, I know he was okay. He wasn't great, but he was all right. They've got a fair amount of depth at edge. I don't necessarily think they need that anymore. They've got corner taken care of. You could use some extra wideouts. Offensive line isn't bad, but this isn't a good spot. This is not a good spot for them. For wideouts, it's a little early to take a running back, even though it says Bijan is right there. I don't know if they want to go that route. So I think we're going to have a trade here, but the question is, who's going to trade up? If any trade ups, you're going to want to have somebody who's going to want to move up and get one of the, either the last quarterback, maybe one of the offensive linemen, or Tyree Wilson, somebody who's hard up for an edge. And looking in front, you got the Bears coming up at 9. They need offensive line help. They're fully focused on building around their quarterback, Justin Fields. Looking to go ahead of the Eagles, who could certainly be looking into edge, or Bijan. You got the Cardinals back at 11. They need everything. Not necessarily sure they'll be willing to trade up, though. And you got the Texans at 12. So, I mean, looking further down, I mean, the Packers at 13. I mean, there's just not really much of a trade spot here. So I think this would sort of force the Falcons to pick. And at this point, they'll probably be best off just going BPA. And that's going to be Tyree Wilson. You get your edge, more important position group. It's a premium position group. Like quarterback is top notch, and they have edges and offensive tackles. Protect the quarterback, get to the quarterback, and next, and then on the next tier after that, your interior defensive line, cornerback, wide receiver. It's all about the pass game, and supplemental pass rush. It's a passing league now, so running the ball, it doesn't have quite the same bite as it used to, which is why, even though they've got some decent talent at edge, you still always have more. I mean, there is a saying in the NFL, there's no such thing as too many pass rushers. Okay, pick number 9, Chicago Bears. You see 2 offensive linemen, offensive tackles highlighted. Peter Skoronski, Paris Johnson, 2 entirely different players. Skoronski, versatile player, short-armed, so a lot of teams would view him more as an interior lineman. Paris Johnson, long, good floor, pretty high ceiling, really talented player. I think they go with Johnson. They run a wide zone run scheme. Yes, they're also more of a running team. I forgot who their running back is. Is it David Montgomery? Did they get somebody else? I don't remember. They could have gone with Bijan and just completely tilt the board, but they need to rebuild that offensive line. Their starting right tackle right now is Larry Borum, who was a 5th or 6th round pick a year or 2 back. Fine backup, but he's no starter, so they need to definitely improve on that. Johnson, plug and play at right tackle, even though he played left tackle. I don't think he'll have a problem converting. All right, pick 10. First of the picks for the Philadelphia Eagles. They got this one via the New Orleans Saints via trade last year. Saints wanted a second pick, and last year the Eagles had 3, so they kind of finagled this one. The Eagles don't really have any needs, per se. I mean, they got to the Super Bowl last year. I mean, okay, maybe they need linebacker, because they did lose a couple of guys in free agency, but that was about it. They were expected to lose more, and they did a hell of a job keeping most of what they lost. They could use right guard, but Cam Jurgens, who they drafted last year to be the heir apparent to Jason Kelce, Kelce's sticking around for another year, so it looks like Jurgens is right now your de facto right guard. But they have a lot of older veterans on there that are in danger of retiring. Lane Johnson at right tackle, Fletcher Cox at defensive tackle, and Brandon Graham at defensive edge. And they got 2 corners who are also getting up there, and James Bradbury and Darius Slay, who they managed to bring both back. So there are a lot of so whoever they end up picking is not really expected to play. And we were talking before about teams that could trade up. Trading up to number 8 for a lot of teams might be a little harder than trading up to 10. Excuse me. My voice is not here this morning. Ugh, this kind of sucks. So where was I going? Right, trading. And yes, I could... And this is right out of the C4 playbook. He's an Eagles fan, so if anybody knows anything about the Eagles, it's going to be him. So you had the Eagles trading with the Washington Commanders. And the Eagles have shown they're not afraid to trade within the division. When they traded with the Cowboys to leapfrog the Giants to draft the, what was his name, Devontae Smith a couple years ago. That was the Justin Fields trade. And the Commanders, say what you will about them wanting to commit to, what's his name? Kid they drafted last year in the 5th round. His name escapes me right now. This is terrible. Oh, Lordy. What's his name? Anyway, and they also signed Jacoby Brissett. It's not much of a quarterback room. So the prevailing thought here is you still got C.J. Stroud on the board. Might also take a shot at him. Move up. End Stroud's slide. Now, get this pick done. It's going to require a bit. It's not going to be the same as when the Bears traded down, but I think a second could get the job done, but a pick's going to have to go back. Something like that could get the job done. So we'll do that. The Commanders are up to 10. And the fall for C.J. Stroud finally ends. He stays in the top 10. Good for him. All right. Pick 11, Arizona Cardinals. They've got a lot of their entire defense is a shambles. The offense isn't all that much better. Outside of quarterback, honestly, they kind of need everything. You could go best player available here. The line is okay. Well, the tackles are okay, I guess. But I think this is where I think you start seeing a bit of a run on edge rushers. I think they go with Lucas Van Ness, big, powerful monster of a man. Could play outside, could play inside, and that kind of versatility will help with the Cardinals. And we're back to the Texans at 12. They were banking on getting their quarterback after he dropped, but that's not happening here. And I can see them continuing on the path of defense. They could double up on edge here. They definitely need help on the line. They could use another corner. They could also throw a bone for the offense. Or could they trade back and also get more picks? That could be another thing. And you know what? I think that's what we're going to do here. I think we're going to have another surprise trade. Houston trades back. Trading up is going to be the New York Jets. Check this out. I don't know if you've been living under a rock or not, or even if you don't pay attention, you probably heard about the Aaron Rodgers trade finally going through. And part of it involved the Jets and the Packers swapping picks. So we're going to do that here. And a 4th-round pick should be enough to get it done. That seems a little... They might ask for another, so we'll throw a 5th in there as well. The Jets just don't have much in the way of picks this year. Well, then again, if you had the draft they did last year, you don't need them much this year. It's all about shoring up what few issues you do have and making that Super Bowl run. So they're going to move up to number 12, grab Peter Skoronski. As I mentioned before, kind of that 5-tool player, can play any of the positions along the offensive line, which is exactly what the Jets need. They don't really have any issues on this team, but you get yourself a good, solid, universal swing offensive lineman who can plug and play anywhere should anybody go down. You got Dwayne Brown at left tackle, 37, 38 years old. He's not expected to last the entire time. The big ticket Mekhi Becton at right tackle, who's getting back healthy, lost a lot of weight, but he can't be counted on to stay healthy. He's proven that in the past. And the rest of the interior line is decent, but somebody struggles, you could throw him in there. So he can do just about everything there. All right, Packers at 13. And any Packers fan will tell you they need pass catchers badly, but their general manager, Brian Gutekunst, does not do that. He has his own hierarchy of positional value, and offensive weapons is not on the list. He likes his defense. He likes his offensive line. He likes his quarterbacks. He's got a young quarterback in Jordan Love, so they're not going there. The offensive line, they could use a tackle. Their defense is kind of falling apart. They need an edge rusher opposite of, what's his name? Rashawn Gary. Big, burly, Levon Kirkland type edge rusher. So they could use a speed aspect on the other side. And they could also use somebody to kind of play hardball because he is coming into his 5th-year option, and this would be a great way to... Or is it his 5th-year option? Well, I know his contract's coming up pretty soon either way. I mean, they could go Myles Murphy, kind of give that same feel on the other side. They could use help at safety. Adrian Amos is, I think his contract is coming up, and he's getting up there in age, and I know they weren't all that thrilled with Darnell Savage. So safety could be a spot here. But no, I think it's ultimately going to be edge, and it just boils down to, okay, is it going to be Nolan Smith, the speed demon out of Georgia, or is it Myles Murphy, the big mauler out of Clemson? Knowing how Green Bay likes to do things, I think it's going to be Murphy. All right. 14. New England Patriots. There's a few things you like to know. This is Bill Belichick's drafting. He likes Alabama players. He loves his trenches, and he loves throwing curveballs at people. Case in point, what was it, last year? Yeah, last year they drafted, what was his name? Kid from Chattanooga. Ended up being pretty good. He was right, but at the time everybody was like, what the hell? Because he was like a third-round value player. They do need offensive line, offensive tackle. They do need secondary help, pass catcher, a lot of things, because this team didn't make the playoffs. And there's been some rumblings about them needing a quarterback too, but with them wanting to trade Mac Jones, but those rumblings have died down. Whoops. All right, we look at the Alabama players. Next one on the list is Brian Branch from Alabama. He's a safety. He's actually good, and this could work as that pick. I mean, Jason McCourty did retire, and so there's a bit of a hole there, free safety. You know what? We're going to do that. That's a Belichick type pick. All right, back to the Texans again at 15. I really want to get them a defensive player. And you know what we're going to do? And I don't want to trade back again. Do I want to double up on edge? No. Let's look at the defensive line. You know what? I've heard a lot of rumblings about this guy being pushed up a bit further. He's going a lot higher than people think. And that's going to be Kalijah, however you want to pronounce it, Kancey from Pittsburgh. A lot of comparisons to Aaron Donald, who also came from Pittsburgh. Hell of a pass rusher, from the interior, and that'll definitely give the Texans some juice right off the bat from there. All right, back to the Texans at 16. They've moved back. And, I'm just going to stick with it. Same thing that was mentioned before from C4. He picked Bijan. It makes sense. Trade back. I mean, it's not in Howie Roseman's wheelhouse to draft a running back, but you trade back. He is one of the best players in the entire draft. And it is the only position where you can get some real bang for your buck right off the bat. Miles Sanders has left the team. They still have, what's his name? Well, they drafted a kid last year, but you get Bijan, and he's a complete game changer. And as a Giants fan, I would hate to see this. Oh, my God. Absolutely not. All right, pick 17. And, that would be, going back to the Eagles, that would be a make the entire league groan pick. Anyway, pick 17. Pittsburgh Steelers. Honestly, there's really only one choice here, and that's Joey Porter Jr., the son of the great Joey Porter, who played for the Steelers for a long, long, long time. He's part of the family already. And more than just a nepotism, he fits a huge need that they have. In this case, for them, it's all about corner. He's tall, good coverage, great man coverage. Be a great fit. Pick 18, Detroit Lions. This is their own pick. And they still need an edge opposite of Aiden Hutchinson. At this point, there's really only one left. That's Nolan Smith. And just the speed that those two are going to generate is a freaking nightmare for opposing teams. One second. All right, pick 19. Not Detroit Lions, but Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They desperately need to rebuild that offensive line. It has fallen to pieces. I think it's going to be Darnell Wright over Broderick Jones. Wright is a little more NFL ready than Jones is. Jones is really young. Needs time to develop. But Darnell Wright, plug and play, is ready to go. All right, pick 20. Back to the Seahawks. They got they got some juice on the defensive line. They could double dip here, but I don't really see that happening. They do need a lot of help otherwise on the offensive side, but they could decide that they want to trade back here because they're looking at the board. They're not sure what to do. They really want to improve that defense all the more. So I think there's going to be a trade here. We're going to go Seattle. And trading up for the first time ever, we're going to have both New York teams trading up. And fourth, fifth, and a seventh should get the job done. So why would the Giants trade up all this way? Well, there's two reasons for them to do that. But the guy I think they have really on their list is going to be Deonte Banks. They need corner 2. The corner play last year was inconsistent at best and downright horrible at worst. Aaron Robinson wasn't bad, but he can't be relied on to stay healthy. And Cordell Flott had a lot of growing pains last year. He's more of a nickelback anyway. So getting Banks will allow Flott to stay in the nickel and compete with Darnay Holmes for that nickel job. And also, more of a long-term thing, Adoree Jackson's in the last year of his contract. You don't know if he's going to be sticking around. Now, you could say, well, you got Jackson Smith and Njigba there. They do need receiver. They need a number one receiver. And nobody's sure if there really is anybody truly worthy of it. Maybe Smith and Njigba, but when they've got a whole bunch of receivers on one-year deals, and they're going to see who's going to stick around and, who's worth it and who's going to stick around. Throwing another one into the mix I think might be a bit too much, and as I said before, I think corner is too much of a need right now. All right, pick 21, LA Chargers. Speaking of teams that need weapons, at this point, the way the board has fallen, I think it's just too obvious here. We just talked about it. JSN. He can be that slot role for the time being while Mike Williams and Keenan Allen are still there. But Allen's getting up there in age, and once Allen moves on, JSN can move back outside and be that, and potentially be that number one. I mean, Mike Williams can be that number one too if he can stay healthy. And that's a big if. All right, pick 22, Baltimore Ravens. They need corner, but all the corners are off the boards with the Giants moving up. The Ravens are a little steamed about that. And at this point, it becomes a case of how do you view this receiving group? A lot of people don't think that the receivers outside JSN are worth a damn. As first rounders, they're all second round grades. The tight ends, maybe, but they got this guy named Mark Andrews who's an absolute god. So I don't think he's going to be the case. They could go BPA, draft Broderick Jones, but offensive tackle, they're in good shape with. Could we see another trade here? I think we do. I think Baltimore drops back. Moving up is going to be the Cincinnati Bengals. Bengals throw a third-round pick Wait, am I trading interdivision? Nah, this is not a division where you do that. I don't know why I thought that'd be a good idea. We're going to have a run on tight ends pretty soon, and there's enough of them to go around. So the tight end needy teams, I don't think are going to be the ones to move up. Oh, man. That was pretty funny. You know what? I don't know if that would happen. You know what? Starting to rethink that. I don't think anybody's going to want to trade with the Ravens here. They're kind of in an awkward spot. And I think they're going to be forced to choose somebody here. You look at what they got now. They signed Odell. They're just trying to find any way they can to keep Lamar Jackson happy so he signs back. They got Devin Duvernay. They got Rashad Bateman, but Rashad Bateman's been kind of So I think they go with an outside guy to try and bolster because Odell can always play the slot. Or they could leave Odell on the outside and bring in somebody else to be the slot. You know what? We're going to do that. Zay Flowers is your pick. He's your starting slot. And even though he's undersized, he can be that outside guy once Odell is gone. All right, pick 23, the Vikings. Here's where I'm going to have my trade happen. I think the Vikings trade back. And I think Kansas City is going to want to move up here. With somebody falling, they just can't help themselves. Throw a third and a fourth to the Vikings, who are kind of strapped on picks. They'd love to get a second, but that's not happening. But a third and a fourth will definitely get the job done. Chiefs move up, take Broderick Jones. He's young, but he's got a hell of a high ceiling. Might be a bit of a crash and burn at first, but I think he can get his act together. It's going to be a hell of a fit. And going to be a hell of a player, and that's just going to make the Chiefs even scarier. All right, pick 24, the Jags. Definitely need corner. And definitely need secondary help. That was their big flaw last year. I mean, just their defense in general. And Emmanuel Forbes has gone up boards lately, more of a zone guy, but I think he could do the job for them. So that's who we're going to put there. Jags get their corner. All right, back to the Seahawks at 25. Things start to make a fit a little better for them. They got Jalen Carter, but they need a lot of help on that front three. And I'm going to surprise everybody with this, and I think the Seahawks do a very Seahawk thing. I think they're going to double up Brian Bresee. All right, Cowboys, 26. As a Giants fan, I absolutely hate the Cowboys. And I've joked for quite a while. If I ever did one of these, I would give them Stetson Bennett, just to say. For those who don't know, Stetson Bennett, where is he? He's got a 6th round grade. But Jerry isn't an idiot. He does have his preferences. He loves the SEC, loves the Big 12, loves guys from those, loves big names. I'm going to surprise a lot of people here with just a sort of an off the beaten path pick here, and I'm going to go with Quentin Johnston. But contrary to popular belief, they do kind of need a receiver. Outside of, CeeDee Lamb, they really don't have that much. Michael Gallup is has not been the same. They also need a slot guy, too. I would not be surprised if they went and got 2 receivers in this year's draft. But for the Cowboys, I could really see this happening. All right, pick 27, Buffalo Bills. I've been mocking this for seemingly since January, and I'm still going to do it. So Cyrus Torrence, they need to rebuild the interior of that line. They need center. They need another guard. They did sign somebody, but I think they still have Roger Saffold at one of the spots, and he's like 35, 36. You need to get somebody younger in there and just get that line rebuilt and done. Protect Josh Allen. That's why he threw all those interceptions last year. He was just trying to save his own hide. Pick 28, the Cincinnati Bengals. They need tight end, and they've got their pick. Surprisingly, everybody, no tight ends have gone yet, but I think one goes here. It's going to be Michael Mayer, sort of a do-it-all, block for whoever's going to be their running back, and right now we don't know who their running back is. There's some unstable statusing with Joe Mixon. Samaje Perine left in the offseason, so they could just be a complete rebirth in their backfield. All right, pick 29, the New Orleans Saints. Need a lot of help. That defensive line was an absolute horror show. And I think for them, this is kind of a no-brainer. Will McDonald, edge from Iowa State, has really gone up draft boards lately. Athletic, got some power and some speed, and could be one of those sneaky Rookie of the Year types. All right, back to the Eagles at 30. And they just shocked the world after trading back and still landing Bijan. I think Howie goes back to another Howie-type pick. And I have him grabbing Anton Harrison. Offensive tackle out of Oklahoma. Has not given up a sack in seemingly forever. And he could be the kind of guy that is going to take over for Lane Johnson, another offensive tackle from Oklahoma. You see a pattern here. But I think for them, it makes all the sense in the world. And finally, back to the Vikings at pick 31. They traded back with the Chiefs. Now, why would they trade back with the Chiefs? If they're looking at something specific here, and I think that's going to be Hendon Hooker, quarterback from Tennessee. Hooker was a out-of-nowhere type player and was seemingly flying up draft boards until he tore his ACL, which really put a damper on things. But he's progressing pretty nicely, should be ready for next year, and he is climbing back up the draft boards again, after everybody seeing his tape. He couldn't do any workouts for obvious reasons, but for the Vikings, this makes all the sense in the world because you still get him on that fifth-year option. He doesn't have to start right away. Yes, he's older, but he doesn't have to start right away because you still have Kirk Cousins. He can learn behind Cousins, and Hooker, while he is mobile, was mobile, don't know if he still is, he's still more of a pocket-type passer, so it would be a good fit and learn behind Cousins. All right, and to finish this out, we have a bonus pick, the first pick of the second round with the Pittsburgh Steelers. They got this pick from the Bears last year in the Chase Claypool trade. They do not replace Claypool here. Instead, they opt to further fix that defense. It's always been their identity, kind of like the Giants. And they grab Mazi Smith, nose tackle out of Michigan. And that will help solidify the interior, help stop the run, and got a little bit of juice on the pass rush. Not a lot, but still one heck of a nose tackle, best one in the draft. And there you go. Here are all the trades I did. Remember Arizona, Tennessee, Philly and Washington, Houston and the Jets, Seattle and the Giants, and Minnesota and Kansas City. Thank you so much for watching this video. Apologies for all the pauses. Not having the best of throat mornings, of all things. But it is what it is. And there's my one take once again. And as you can see, here is my final mock. Well, my only mock draft. Starting to get ready for tomorrow night, first round of the NFL Draft. Thanks again for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe to get the latest and greatest as they come in. This has been Big Dave, the Middle-Aged Gamer, and this is the NFL Draft.